bum ba-dum, bum bum bum, bum bum bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum bum ba-da-ba-ba-dum. Dun 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 bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Hi everyone. Good evening. Oh, Conchetta from Arizona. I had an Aunt Conchetta. Hi Donna. Great to see you. Hi Kathy, Christine, and Sue from San Diego. She says it's from way too warm San Diego. Meanwhile, Wisconsin's getting hit hard with snow. I just read here a minute ago. Leanne from Coast. Hi, Leanne. Hello from stormy coastal North Carolina. So great to see all of you. Thanks for joining me. It's Monday night, and this is what we do every Monday night. We do one thing and one thing only, and that is we talk about homeopathy. And so my name is Joette Calabrese, and that's what we do all together as a group. And I present to you what I know. And for those of you who already know me, hi, friends. Great to see you all. Wonderful. 33 degrees in Texas tonight. Hi. I love the pink and cheetah Pittsburgh. Thanks, Tiffany. Yeah, blessings from Wilmington, North Carolina. Hello from Fair Oaks, California. It's great to see everyone. Thank you for joining me. Okay, let's talk, shall we? Let's talk about blood pressure. First, I have to remind you, my friends, I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a cardiologist. I'm not vascular cardiological background at all. I am a homeopath, and I'm a lay homeopath. It means that I have seen a lot of cases, tens of thousands of cases, not of just blood pressure conditions, but I've seen a lot of cases in the work that I've been doing through the years. It doesn't make me an expert in blood pressure. It does make me want to learn more, though, because there's always more to learn. I'm always reading. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always poking around in my books or reading new information. The research is just the amount of research that's coming out these days is so voluminous, and maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's always been like that, but we've noticed it more because it's all available to us now on the internet. All of the research, the analysis, the meta-analysis, all of this is now available to the general public. And so it is a delicious feast of information. And so some of it is contradictory, some of it is aligned. And so I'm always trying to make heads or tails of it all. So my take on high blood pressure, I have a couple different ways of looking at it, and I don't even know that I'm correct. I'm going to be honest with you. I may change my thinking in 6 months. So I'm just going to share with you how I do think this through. I have thought for many years that blood pressure that's increased is often extrinsic. Not always, but often can be extrinsic. Someone walks down the street, they get a good whiff of pesticides that have just been sprayed in the nearby golf course or someone's lawn, and they can have a reaction. And if they live near that person's house or near that golf course, they can have an increased blood pressure on a regular basis, so that it looks like that is their blood pressure, but it is a reaction. I think it can also come from food. When people drink too much coffee, eat a lot, and that's not one of the top issues, but chocolate, those foods that are high stimulants or stimulants in that person's life. It might not be for everyone. It might be for only this particular person. Obviously, stress, we all know that. Sleep apnea, I know that that's certainly a consideration as well. But I also believe that, of course, smoking, people don't smoke anymore. I mean, they still talk about that, for goodness sakes. And I'm going to say parenthetically, I don't know that smoking's all that bad. I think it was the additives that they were adding to the tobacco, to be honest. Dehydration is something that concerns me because I live in Florida and it's very easy to become dehydrated. So we could come up with all of the reasons. I think another big reason is insulin. A problem with insulin, so diabetes or pre-diabetes. or pre-diabetes can also, it's closely related. What's first? Is it the high blood pressure that comes first or the diabetes? I actually think it's the insulin problem that causes the increase in the blood pressure. And we also know that blood pressure meds are a problem. And none of this I'm telling you really is all that new. But I have to say that one of the grandest side effects that I see from people taking blood pressure meds is, especially in older women, but men too, is urinary tract issues, such as incontinence or frequency or urgency. And I work with people now who have this problem, that have this urgency problem or incontinence in general, and they're on blood pressure meds. And the problem is what number are we trying to get to? Are we trying to get to 120/80? Can we expect that to be a normal number? Well, I'm old enough to remember, and many of you will too, that the normal blood pressure used to be considered the systolic, the upper number, used to be considered 100 plus your age. So if you're 70, 170 should be a normal systolic. And that's just the start. I don't know what the diastolic should be in relationship to that, but I do know that the upper number was considered normal if it was in the range of 100 plus your age. But now that's all changed. And why has it changed? Is it that we have better information? Is it that we have an industry that if they can get encourage people to believe that they are too high, that they can sell more drugs, and then the drugs are, of course, used almost universally for the rest of the person's life. People don't go off of it. Doctors don't de-prescribe. They always prescribe these blood pressure drugs. So what's a person to do? Well, my blood pressure was off for a while. It was my diastolic that was too high. My systolic was within the range of normal. It was actually 120, 122. But my diastolic was too high. And so what I started to do was to change my diet. And let me just tell you, I can use homeopathic medicines. I know what to use. And I could do the same thing for my blood sugar. I can do the same thing for pretty much even for my weight to a certain degree. But I have to say, friends, I'd rather not. And that's my opinion. That's the way I see it. You might see it much differently, but if I'm in trouble, I'm going to use homeopathy. But I would rather know what I should be doing, what is correct for my body. So I long ago cut out many carbs. I still have some carbs. I mean, I have L-reuteri fermented milk and cream that has carbohydrates in it. I have some cheese. I don't have as much as I used to have. I'll have an occasional avocado, but for the most part, I eat lots of meat, fish, meat, eggs. And so I have found that has given me blood pressure that is much better. And so I think that because I believe that I was on my way to diabetes, or I was already there. I might have already been there. I have not gotten my A1C checked. But I will tell you that I think that it's prudent to figure out what we should be doing, what the proper human diet actually is comprised of, and particularly for what's best for me and for my husband, because that's who I live with, and even for my children to a certain degree, because we share a lot of meals together. Okay, here's some people coming in. What do I think of chicken? It's all right. I don't think it's as nutrient dense as beef or lamb or bison or sardines or eggs or even bacon. I think chicken is it's poultry, and it's a little bit on the paltry side. I think that ruminant animals are the best to eat. I think one of the finest foods known to mankind is beef. And if we're going to go with other areas of that, I think L-reuteri fermented milk or cream is incredible, very important. Eggs, Sardines. Those are the top foods. Chicken, I think, is grossly overeaten in our society. Grossly. They have one stomach, and whatever they eat, that's it. That's it. They can only process it for so long. But with ruminant animals, they have compartments in their stomachs, and they can absorb even toxins and remove them to a certain degree, and process them is really the word I'm looking for, because of the enzymes in the stomach and the acids. And so I think that ruminant animals are much, much higher quality. Now, let's see, why A1C is not a reliable marker? Well, you're right, Leanne. It isn't very reliable. A lot of these, even taking your blood pressure is not very reliable with a cough. And thank you for sharing that. I think you're absolutely right. A1C is not reliable. There are, these tests are not unlike, if you're familiar with the repertory, the homeopathic repertory, it's not 100%. They're only slight markers. The problem is we get stuck on the slight, gives us patterns, gives us a pathway. The thing is that we don't have perfect answers. We have to kind of poke around and do with what we can. Let's see. People are talking about eating a steak right now, says Donna. Yeah, you got it. That's exactly steak. But we don't have to spend a lot of money on meat, my friends. You can eat burgers. I mean, I eat a lot of burgers. I make meatballs all the time. There are many things that you can do with ground beef. And to be honest, I don't get tired of it. But then if I do, I have ground lamb, or I have lamb chops, or lamb shanks, or roast lamb, leg of lamb. All right. So let me just say that the Banerjis have an entire chapter on hypertension. And it's a very interesting chapter. If you have the Banerji Protocol book, I would urge you to read it. And but you're going to have to read it a couple of times, because it gives you guidelines. It's not exact. They're saying that, of course, it depends on what country you're talking about, and not because the people are that different, but rather the interference, the medical interference that is so prevalent in our country, that it's and it's not so common in many places in India and in Asia in general. That because they're not as interfered with as we are, then their blood pressure is more, I don't know, virgin perhaps is a way to put it. And so they believe that both the systolic and diastolic can go very high into the 190s, and still the person can still have a very healthy life, long-lived, healthy life. And I'm willing to accept that. On the other hand, I am going to be watching myself, and I watch my family, my husband and my brother, and those who are close to me, my clients, if it's of concern. I watch it more closely than perhaps the Banerjis do. Now, what they say, and I will give you their protocols, but let me just see. Let's see. I found that when I'm dehydrated, my blood pressure raises. You are absolutely right, Laura. And so we have to remember, I've got my water right here. I have to actually remind myself on a regular basis. And I often put salt in it, or electrolytes. Unfortunately, it's hard to get the Banerji book right now. We have a stack of them that were sent to us by Rinku Banerji, who is Pratik Banerji's widow, and we are trying to figure out how we are going to sell these books, because we don't want to make a profit on it. It's not for me to make a profit. It is for the clinic to make a living, because it belongs to her, to Rinku Banerji. Let's just see. My father almost died in a car accident because his blood pressure medications caused him to pass out while driving, but he is unwilling to change lifestyle and diet changes. Now he had kidney. Yes, and that's exactly what happens. So what I see is the number one medicine that I absolutely love for elevated blood pressure, particularly, my friends, if it spikes, is I start immediately with aconitum 200. Must have that 200, my friends. Aconitum napellus 200. It must have 200C written after it. Must. Okay? That is critical. So that's if it spikes, and that's as an SOS. So I want to share that with you. That SOS is, and this aconitum is also excellent for someone who feels as though something vascular or cardiovascular is occurring. Anything that's occurring as an SOS that is cardiovascular blood pressure focused is aconitum napellus 200C, and it's used. A dose is taken and then followed up shortly after, depending on what occurs after the first dose. Sometimes we use it, every 4 hours, depending on how serious the condition is. Sometimes it's every few minutes, depending on, again, how serious it is. Okay. Joette, I know there are different Banerjis with the name Banerji that practice homeopathy. Are the Banerji protocols listed on the National Center for Homeopathy website the same as the Banerjis you studied under? The NC8, I don't know. I don't know who they are, who they've listed. The Banerjis that I worked with were Prasanta and Prateep. And it's Banerji with a J-I is the last two letters. Banerji in that part of the world is like Smith in our part of the world. So, friends, there are many. And there are relations to Prateep Banerji. There's also Prasanta Banerji's granddaughter. Prateep Banerji's daughter has another clinic. So they're and I don't ever want there to be rivals between clinics. That's not what this is all about, my friends. This is all about getting information to the general population. That's the way I see it, that we need to get this information to the general population. I have a friend whose blood pressure goes down and she feels faint. She's 37. I would say, let's hear what people have to say about that. I know what I would do. Let's see what others have to say about blood pressure that is too low. Now, a Raven says, I have 185 over 95, but I don't feel any symptoms, what should I be looking for? Increased blood pressure doesn't have symptoms generally. Some people can feel it, but most people do not. It's silent, as they say. DB Speaker says, in a carnivore diet and get awful leg cramps at the night. Leg cramp meds help, but not always. Oh, go for Joette Calabrese leg cramps. Yes. Yeah. And you do need to be drinking water and drink it with salt or electrolytes, definitely in the carnivore. And often it happens that the carnivore diet, in the very beginning, there are some shifts. I don't know if it's just the beginning for you, but in the first weeks or months on carnivore, there are shifts. All right. So too low, drink more water and a pinch of salt. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think it's salt and water. That's what I was going to say too, and I'm glad you came with it. My blood pressure has been normal low since a teenager. Well, see, if you know that if it's been normal low for a long time, and you know that, I mean, that could be who you are. So, all right, so let's get into this. In the Banerji Protocol book, it reads, number 1, in our clinics, we treat cases with our protocols as follow. Number 1 is Rhus Tox 30. Rhus Tox, yes, the remedy that we use for severe aches and pains, even in a cold or flu. The remedy that we use indeed for arthritis or from feeling beat up, from sleeping the wrong way, from torticollis. Yes, Rhus Tox 30. And it's mixed with aconitum napellus 200C. And it's usually used twice daily. And they like to use it in liquid form, in alcohol form, and you can purchase that in alcohol form from OHM if you're a student or a client of mine. And you can also do the same if you buy from Helios in Great Britain, in England. So somebody's asking for this to be spelled, so would somebody please bring that up? It'll be written up here. I'm sure somebody's going to write. Here it is. Okay. Aconitum napellus. Now, I'm also going to say that number 2 in the book is to use aconitum napellus that is not potentized. I do not recommend. Not only do I not recommend that, I think it's absolutely verboten to do this, to use this in mother tincture. It is extremely dangerous. So why would the Banerjis put something in their book that's extremely dangerous? Well, let me just say this. The Banerjis wrote this book thinking that it was going to go to other homeopaths in India. It didn't occur to them for some time until Perry and I got there and they started to ask us about how they could market it and if we could be involved, etc. We were not involved. We did not get involved. But we had a lot of discussions about it. And it wasn't until then that it was recognized that, oh my goodness, this book is going to go out to the general public all over the world. Aconitum nipalis in mother tincture is poisonous, but if used very, 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 very judiciously, and it's the correct manufacturer of it, and that's very important. In other words, the pharmacy has to be a very, very reliable pharmacy. It can be extremely dangerous. So we just disregard that. I tell people, do not use this. In fact, I've written it in my own book. Do not use mother tincture. It is poison. But they also include the next medicine, which is Rauwolfia serpentina, and that's a mother tincture. And that's 2 doses daily, as well as number 4, glenoin, or glenoinum. Glenoin, Glonoine, 30C twice a day. Now, I have to tell you, we don't have to go that far in most cases. In most situations, my friends, I find that number 1, Roostox 30, mixed with our Aconitum nipalis 200 twice daily, is often the ticket. Now, it doesn't happen quickly. And it doesn't bring it down to 120/80 necessarily. It might, but it might not. So here's the bugaboo that this is, yes, Leanne, thank you very much. The Banerjis had their own trusted pharmacy. You're absolutely right. And we don't know. If you buy this from other places, you don't know where it's coming from. A lot of times you don't. But even if you did, I wouldn't even keep this in the house because we've trained our children to believe that homeopathy is safe. Right? This is not. And so I wouldn't even keep it in the house. Yes, here we go. Yeah, Fernicia says I'm sorry to jump around, but there are lots of good points and questions here. Crataegus mother tincture can be one to consider for low blood pressure. Yeah, but I think it's salt. I think it's dehydration and a need for salt when the blood pressure is too low. All right, so I find that Roostox 30 mixed with Aconitum 200 twice daily is often the ticket. So this is the bugaboo, which is why I started out by talking about my diet and how I think that it's key, absolutely key to hypertension or to not have hypertension. And I also think we need to move more. We need to be exercising. We need to be lifting weights. And I don't mean having to go to the gym. Yuck. I do not like gyms. Someday I may find one that I like or that's acceptable. I don't like gyms. So I wear weights around my ankles. I do, often during the day. And I walk on my walking machine. And I go up and down the stairs many times with the weights on my ankles. And then when I walk outside, sometimes I'll wear a weighted vest or I carry weights, and I feel that that's pretty useful. Okay. When you say mix with, what does that mean? Well, the pharmacy itself will actually mix it for you, but if not, then you're going to put them together yourself, actually in the mouth simultaneously. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Yes. Yeah, and leg cramps is a sign of mineral imbalance. Yes, it often is. That's right. It's glenoin, Glonoine, but I'm going to tell you, my friends, I find that the first protocol is really, the first remedy is just sufficient. Yeah, push-ups. You're right, Phoenicia. You're right. Push-ups are very good. I'm with you, Joe, and I can't go to a gym. I will be bombarded. You're so funny, Leanne. It's nice to have you back. Carrie says, hubby went from 145/80 to 118/62 in short order. What did you do, Carrie? You must have said earlier, but I think I missed it. Yeah, my family likes weighted vests too, or sandbags and kettlebells. That's right. How important is it to take the aconitum rhus-tox in liquid versus pillules? Let's put it this way. You can do it with pills, and I have a lot of people who do, but when the Banerjis give us a specific protocol, including that includes liquid, then I try to follow it as closely as possible because if it matters. Now, sometimes taking a remedy doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is, I don't know. Let's say your nails are chipping a lot, and you just don't want them to chip any longer, and your hair is a little breaking off easily, and you take, say, I don't know, silica, for example. You decide that's what you're going to take. And you say, well, I don't know. I'll take it. Sometimes I'll take it one day, and then maybe another day I might take it twice. And then, so if you're not committed 100% because it's not a big deal to you, then you've just, kind of follow your own willy-nilly. But if it's important, then I would indeed purchase it in liquid. I really believe that can make a difference. Is it okay to have a normal blood pressure to be as low as 96/20, age 45? I'm going to tell you, Sally. I think that's Sally. Yeah, Leanne says, let me just say parenthetically, liquid potencies seem to hit different layers. I agree with you. So, again, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know that you can live and that can be considered normal. I would say that's not normal, but I don't, if someone's had that all their life, as someone mentioned earlier, and they've been fine, and they have perhaps a good diet, then you might be able to get away with that and be perfectly comfortable. For example, for menopausal dryness, my clients get best results from liquid sepia. Yeah, very good. Let's see. What was the second and third for blood pressure? Well, the second one we're not even going to talk about is actually Rauwolfia. Rauwalfia. Rauwolfia. And the second word is serpentina. And that's in a mother tincture. And let's see. How long do you take rhus-tox and aconitum liquid for blood pressure? How do you know when to stop? Well, that is the question, isn't it? That's the question everybody asks all the time about homeopathy. You take it for as long as it's needed. In other words, if you have a headache and you take a remedy, a homeopathic remedy, the headache goes away, do you continue taking it? No, it's gone. Well, you wouldn't treat it, right? If you've got some arthritis and you take the remedies and the first week it's still there, second week it's a little less, third week it's a little less still, fifth week it's mostly gone. Do you can carry on and take it? No, you stop. So it's you take it until it's no longer necessary. Now, that's kind of vague because it's really, and that's why, again, I'm going to repeat it. I'm not a cardiovascular doctor. I don't have that kind of training at all. And I will tell you that I have had family members stay on blood pressure, these blood pressure protocols that I'm talking about right now for many, 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 many months. And I am convinced that a better method would be for them to, yes, go ahead and use the homeopathic medicines, but to change the diet. Get rid of the sweets. Eliminate the alcohol. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry. Listen, Easter's coming up. I love cannolis. I make them. I haven't made them in years, but I make my own cannoli from scratch. The little wrappers, I roll them all out with the flour. I do the whole thing. I deep fry the cannoli shells. I have the little tubes. I'd love nothing more than to have cannoli for Easter, but I'm not going to do that. I'd love nothing more than to have chocolate. I will not do that. Why? When I was younger, I could get away with it. Now I'm at this age. I think it's time that I get serious. Okay. Amina says, every time my husband's blood pressure spikes, I give him aconitum 200 and it goes down 15 to 20 points. Aconitum also helps him calm down his stress, which is usually the reason for his spikes. Very well put, Amina. Thank you very much for sharing that. My blood pressure is affected by microwave frequencies. It goes down to normal when I am down at the beach or outside in rural areas or forests. Alice, that's fascinating. And it's not uncommon, I don't believe. Eliminate carbs, says Laura. I agree. And what I mean by carbs and what you mean by carbs is, look, there are carbs in good yogurt. There are carbs in cheese, in raw milk. I'm not talking about that. You'll find carbs in eggs. But we're talking about bread. We're talking about bagels. We're talking about the things that are that we think are normal normal foods. Oats. No, with the oats. No. Goodbye oats. I reversed T2D on ketogenic carnivore lifestyle, Laura says. Yes. I think carnivore diet is a brilliant diet. I'm not telling you that you must do this, friends. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you must, but I don't know. I'm seeing some really great results, and I hear it from you. I've seen it in myself and my husband, in clients and students who report to me. I'm impressed, and I've been on all kinds. I've eaten all kinds of ways. Vegan for years, macrobiotic for years, ketogenic most of my adult life. Okay. Dr. Reese teaches the way you do, Joette. I love him too. Oh, thanks, Janine. No grains. I think it's the grains. Yeah. Eating more protein has saved me. Yes. Lost 23 pounds, says Janine. Yes. What about sprouted and soaked oats? You see, and that's where I was, Shelley. Because I was Weston A. Price focused, I sprouted. That's exactly what I did. And I soaked. They're still carbs. They are still carbohydrates. And the people who live long lives in these remote areas that Dr. Weston Price studied back in the 40s, some of them did eat oats and grains that were sprouted and soaked, but the Inuits didn't. And many areas of Africa did not, and the South Pacificans often did not. And they lived long lives, and what I mean by long lives is well over 100 into 120. What would you recommend to people who are vegetarian? No meat, no seafood except eggs. Eat a lot of eggs. Eat a lot of eggs and get a hold of some really good dairy. Make your own L. reuteri yogurt of sorts. It's really fermented dairy. That's what I would do. Eggs. Eat a ton of them every day. I mean, when I have breakfast, it's really more like brunch. I have 3-4 eggs a day. Oh, let's see what else we've got. All right, I'm going to have to go now. Oh, yeah, it's 8:32, for goodness sakes. Okay, I'm going to my Mighties, and I'm looking forward to seeing those of you who are with me there. Stay with me, friends, and we'll move over to the other